today's episode of our Take on This. We have a very special guest, Marnie Ivanich, who is our Director of Client Services.
Yes.
And you look lovely. You did your hair.
Thank
There's
you.
some curl in it.
Special occasion.
Exactly. So today we're going to talk about influencer marketing, which is a huge part of what we're doing and a huge part of what you manage with your clients here at Flying Camel. So I think I used the term in our last video. If you've been living under a rock, when we talked about Instagram stories a couple weeks ago, but can you kind of give a summary of how we, or what we perceive as influencer marketing at Flying Camel?
Well, it's interesting too, and if you think of it, when you think back to the history of influencer marketing, it's actually been around for about 10 years when I was doing some research on it. That it's been around a lot longer than I think a lot of people know. And of course we think of an influencer like somebody like a Kylie Jenner or a Kim Kardashian, who have millions and millions and millions of followers and can put out one post and in the minute they sell out of all of their lipsticks or whatever brand they might be promoting. And I think that's where it started, but over the course of the last 10 years, it's really turned into what I think is almost another whole outlet. We have our traditional media in public relations, and now we have this other outlet of influencers marketing that can not only spread the brand awareness, but also talk about it from an authentic standpoint. So in the olden days, when you sent out a press release to the newspapers, they would cover it. They would be calling you, looking for the information. We do the same thing here. We actually will research the best influencer to offer up a story or a product review, and we do our homework to make sure that it's the right fit, and then we work with them closely to make sure that it is the right fit with them and that we are getting what they're looking for in exchange for what we're looking for in terms of return on investment and the coverage and the awareness, and we work together to make sure that it's a cohesive fit.
So Marnie, you mentioned the Kardashian factor, which is that like mega influencer.
Yes.
I know we kind of in the agency define a couple of levels, which are kind of coming into, like, people are using those kind of terms. Do you want to explain kind of those terms and levels and how we classify those?
Yes, and that's a good point. We don't always turn to the Kardashians because the Kardashians don't always deliver what you're looking for. And you're right, it's a very high price. So we often we do a lot of research to figure out who is the best fit for whatever project or service or brand or whatever we're supporting at that stage. So there are, outside of that, what we would refer to as a mega influencer. There are different levels. So macro, for example, is anywhere from about 100,000 followers to, say, up to 1 million followers. So there's quite a lot of people that fit within that range right now. But they are still people who can give you some good quality engagement and still bring you those numbers. That said, though, you can even dig down deeper into something like a micro influencer who could be anywhere from, say, 1,000 up to 100,000 influencers. Again, the audience gets smaller, but it's a very niche targeted audience. So depending on what you are looking to achieve for a brand or product, they may be the best place to go to because they've got a much more targeted audience who is interested in what you'd be talking about.
And I feel like that's the category that we kind of operate the most with.
Yes.
With our client base anyways.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can even dig down a little deeper too to nano, which is anywhere from, I'd say, about 1,000. And they've got a small niche, but again, they are very engaged with their followers, and their followers are very engaged with them. We have worked with some that are in that category, but you're right, we go into more of the micro where they're a little bit bigger, but again, we're still getting that engagement and the authenticity.
So representing brands, we work with obviously influencers a lot. What kind of advice would you give a brand for working with influencers?
So it's very interesting because I think, again, going back to when you look at influencer marketing and traditional PR, when you send out a press release, you've got all the information there. With influencer marketing, it's really important to connect with, not only do your research, do your homework, and find out who is the best fit. Not every newsroom is going to take the same information, so not every influencer is going to be interested in the same information. Find out who your audience is, and then also work with them. Offer up, start the conversation to say, this is what we're looking to do, But what we have learned as an agency too is that a lot of them know their audience. So they will come back saying, would love to do this. How about we do this?
Yeah.
So it's that two-way conversation of just making sure that, again, at the end of the day, we are representing a brand, but how can we best deliver the brand information through the right channel?
And I think that's an important point to make in terms of collaboration. Like, I think you can really tell if a brand has kind of put words
Yes.
in the mouth. Like, they need to be speaking. And you know what? I honestly hate the term authentic because it's so overused now. Everything's authentic, but it's kind of true in this case. They can't all of a sudden kind of go off their tone of voice.
No.
Just because they're working with a brand. And I can usually tell when you see something that isn't quite a good fit. You're like, okay, nice paycheck.
Well, and it's funny because I've heard from influencers saying, I'm not sure if my followers would get that. Like,
Yeah.
that's not really the language I would usually use. So
Yeah,
it's
so that's
really,
not a good fit in that case, right?
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Or it's a case of figuring out what is the best language that works on both sides.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's wrap this up by giving a great case study. Can you talk about something that you've worked on in the last little while?
Well, I'll tell you, we've got two clients that we do a lot of info. Well, we've got more than that, but two that stick out, I think. Hamilton Beach is a great example because we have a brand where everybody knows Hamilton Beach. And I bet you if you looked in your kitchen, you probably have a Hamilton Beach appliance on your counter. But the word of mouth that people hear from, how can I try this product out? It's not a case of just trying a product out, but they come to us saying, we would love to review this product. We will do X, Y, and Z. And then we then assess it and figure out, is that the best opportunity for the brand? Are we getting our best return on investment? And then we move forward with those that are the best fit. American Standard is a prime example too, is we actually just did what is called an Instagram takeover, where we actually had an influencer come in and own the Instagram channel for a day, where they actually could be talking about some of the renovations that they did, featuring some of the products that we had provided them from American Standard.
Yeah.
And the engagement that we got from them was crazy. Not only were they so enthusiastic in what they were doing with the brand, but all of their followers were coming back saying, where do I find that? How do I get this? I love
That
the
was
look.
a great
So
case
it was
study.
just an ongoing conversation that had the brand embedded right into it.
And for Hamilton Beach, everyone loves watching a blender go.
For some reason.
You know,
It's great. A coffee drip.
and the reveal from an air fryer or something.
Yes.
And, look what we cooked for dinner. I know.
I know.
People will watch them for hours.
I know, people love it.
Anyways, it is a fun part of our job,
It is.
working with and getting to know all of the influencers
Yeah.
and working with it, and ultimately driving brand success. So,
Totally. Yep.
so that was our take on this today, talking about influencer marketing.